please say aye. To the contrary, carried. We're going to the pink pages now. We're going to C1, which was confidential until 9 o'clock, and I accept that the Chief Executive and the Chief Financial are working so we don't go to this silly nonsense in future. And I'll welcome Karuna and others to the table. Probably we should. I'll move and second this. I'll move that we receive this quarterly report, not quite so confidential one.
Happy to second.
And it'll be seconded by Councillor Fletcher again. And I welcome Karuna and Michael, and whoever else is joining, Ross. Thank you very much. Off you go.
Okay, thank you. So this item deals with the results for the council group and the parent for the period through to the 6 months through to the end of December. This is the quarterly performance report, which has one view of the financials. It's very closely related to the interim report that's gone out publicly this morning, which kind of has a statutory view. The interim report focuses more on the financials. This focuses more on getting how are we progressing against our plans, budgets, activities, etc. But it's essentially the same underlying financial information. Throughout both of it, the focus really for the basis of reporting is how are we tracking against the first 6 months of the LTP that was agreed last year with with lots of political input and with a record amount of input from Aucklanders as well. Clearly we're making really good progress against the plan. In terms of overall capital investment for that 6 month period, it was just over $1.9 billion over that period. In the past, the council groups have delivered $2 to $3 billion of capex in a year. We're now aiming for $4 billion, so having almost $2 billion completed within that period just shows that we've increased in scale, that the plans in the transport and water space are bigger, more ambitious than they have been in the past. So there is the scale has increased, and there's a lot of really good infrastructure delivery going on. So, and in terms of comparison against the prior year, it was a significant increase. In terms of what the composition of that, it was about basically 100%, close to 100% of budget. There was a little bit less delivery in transport and water space. Some of that was a result of transport funding reductions. Water care sort of getting off to a slower start at the beginning of the financial year, and that was sort of broadly offset by about 114 million more buyouts than expected in the period. And there's another report later on the agenda around buyouts that comes through from the TRIC, the earlier TRIC reporting. And in operating sense, it was 85 million favourable to budget year to date for the group, and that was because revenue was 2% favourable to budget, and expenditure was also 2% favourable to budget. So both revenue and expenditure moving in favourable directions. Revenue sort of mainly driven by regulatory revenue for Auckland Council and greater revenue through the port, offset by a little bit of less water volume than expected. FTEs increased by 302 from 30 June through to 31 December, and a big chunk of that was the seasonal change. We always have more people, lifeguards and people in holiday parks, etc. over the summer months. And then another chunk of it was more people on the front line, customer services and public transport officers as well. Other things, in the report, it does talk about progress against the plan. In the quarterly pack, we've got big sections in there, and Karuna can talk to it a bit more. That sort of sets out here are the key things we said we're going to do in the long-term plan, and we talk about progress. One of those things is the establishment of the Auckland Future Fund, and the next item on the agenda goes into a bit more detail around that as well, and you'll hear from the chair of the Future Fund board there. Other things, the rollout of the $50 weekly public transport fare cap was rolled out and called out as a key highlight. The report talks about Auckland Council as an organisation as well as the group. Auckland Council is 27 million favourable year to date. 10% favourable to budget on revenue, mainly regulatory revenue, and pretty much online with direct expenditure. And as we said in the last item, in January that's improved a bit, and we've seen expenditure sort of track below budget since this report was published. So those are kind of the high-level financial results, similar to where they are in January. It's all set out in detail in the report and in the interim report that's gone out, and I'll pass over to Karina to talk about some of the non-financial elements and other details.
Good morning and thanks, Ross. So following on from those key financials, just in terms of a couple of key project highlights, there was a new bus station at Botany Town Centre, the Ellerslie Dynamic Bus Lane trial began. The bus lane can be activated based on demand rather than a fixed time period like other bus lanes. The Pukikoe water treatment plant is back in service during the month after it was severely damaged in last year's Auckland anniversary floods. Just a couple of projects around for our communities. The Ranui Domain Playground upgrade is completed. Tui Glen Reserve Shared Path upgrade project was also complete. If we turn our attention to the performance measures, 25 measures were updated this quarter, so just over 2/3 were either achieved or substantially achieved, and 7 of those were not. Just echoing Phil's earlier sentiment around the increased pools and leisure memberships and library members. Both libraries and pools and leisure centres were accessible to the community for over 99% of this quarter, with libraries slightly improving on the previous quarter result. Both Auckland emergency measures in terms of our emergency preparedness and understanding of the types of emergencies that could occur, these targets were not achieved for the first time since 2022. This is not entirely surprising, given there was, of course, enhanced awareness previously, given the weather-related events. In terms of customer satisfaction, we have achieved our targets in the building and resource consent space and with our alcohol and licensing services. So in closing, this is the second quarter, as Ross mentioned earlier, where we have attempted to align more closely this quarterly document with our long-term plan, and you will see in the report the information has been sectioned into the different investment areas. So this is a slightly new approach, and welcome your feedback, and a quick thank you to our investment area leads for help supporting us in this. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Right, it sounds as though you've bewildered everybody or managed to answer all, but there are no questions. I think some of it came through with them more. I think it's been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Fletcher, that we receive the quarterly report, and thank you very much for the good work and the good result. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. Thank you very much for that, Ross and team. We're now going to move to item 8, which is very exciting.